Yo, what's up? Good vibes, people. Respect to yourself, man. You are loved and you are a wonderful creature. For clicking this video, much love to yourself. It's all we are all about here. Love, peace, forgiveness, unity, and good vibes. You see, straight out of Africa with lots of good vibes. Tell us where you're watching from, leave a comment, smash the like button, and watch till the end, man. Good vibes till the end. Let's dive in. Peace.
Around 29% of people will have to poop after drinking their morning coffee, and that's due to their genetics. Around 17% of people will taste soap when they eat cilantro due to their genetics. Around 14% of people who consume beets will develop pink urine, and that's due to their genetics. Around 25% of people are super tasters, meaning they're less likely to like vegetables.
You're wide awake. You might even try to force yourself to go back to sleep. In this video, I'm going to share with you why you might not want to go back to bed. Last night, I had an extremely rare bedtime. I went to bed anywhere between 8 and 9 at night, which is very rare because usually I go to bed between 1 and 4 in the morning. But I just felt physically exhausted, and so I went to bed, and when I woke up, I knew it was early, but I was expecting to see like 5 or 6 in the morning on my cell phone. And when I seen it was like 1:45 in the morning, I was extremely disappointed because I knew I was so wide awake, there was no chance I was going to bed. So go down to my garage, turn on my heater, light a candle. You know, I'm here in Canada, it's kind of freezing cold. And I'm just sitting in my garage, staring at my candle, talking to spirit. And I'm like, okay, why am I awake right now? There's got to be a reason for this. And it didn't take long for me to get a message that my spirit team had woken me up because there was an individual that was going to be attempting to hack into my dream state. And right after receiving this message, I have some sensors placed in the yard that send off alarms, and we got all these cameras installed in the yard and in the house, and I'm sitting there at 2 in the morning. There's no wind, there's nothing on my driveway, and this alarm starts going off, and where the sensor's pointed, it's right on the garage. So I look on the cameras and you know there's nothing there, and sometimes a bird will send it off, this and that. So I open up the garage and sensor keeps going off and there's nothing there. So I knew that there was some negative entity or spirit that was attempting to hack my dreams like my spirit team told me. And the night before, you know, I heard some, like at 2 in the morning, chilling in my garage, I hear some banshee sounds coming from my backyard. So I know there's, you know, some of my fans getting together. We got a full moon coming up. So if you ever wake up in the middle of the night and you're wide awake, it might not be a good idea to force yourself to go back to sleep. This is my experience. Just want to share with you guys. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.
So much love to you, man.
The difference between my male and female dogs when I cry for help. Thank you, buddy! If you want to spot a liar, I'm going to give you 8 tips given by the FBI.
on how to spot a liar. And obviously FBI tips when it comes to these things are gold because they spot lies for a living. Specifically, these tips were given by a former FBI agent called Leray Key. I think I'm saying his name correctly. And his first tip is make sure that you're listening more than you're speaking, just so that you can watch out for changes in a person's behavior. So watch out if they are speaking faster, they're speaking louder, or if their voice cracks, or if they clear their throat and cough a lot. Again, if somehow you know a person and they already do all of these things, it's not a red flag, but if someone doesn't already do them, then watch out for that. Another tip he gives is that watch out if they forget things, especially if you were already talking about a topic and they suddenly forget what you were talking about, or you said something like 5 minutes ago and they're like super forgetful. Also, if they refuse to give certain details on something you're asking, or instead they respond to you in a very exaggerated way. And again, if these are characteristics that the person you're speaking to already exhibit, then it's not a red flag. But the key here is to see if they don't do any of these things and they start doing them, then definitely watch out for that. Tip number, I lost count. Be very careful if they're suddenly complimenting you. Like, let's say you're trying to talk about a topic and you're like, okay, I have a question to ask. And they're like, that's a really nice top. Where did you get it? You're like, fess up right now. This tip I'm about to say goes hand in hand with the last one, but like when I said that they're refusing to give details on the on certain information or question you're asking, always make sure to ask follow-up questions. Like ask them, why are you refusing to give me details on this thing? What's happening with you? Because they very well could be embarrassed or just hesitant in a way. So instead of just jumping to the conclusion that they're lying, ask them why they're refusing to give details, which I know can be like really obvious, but me personally, if I have an instinct that someone is lying, I'll investigate on my own and I'll stop asking questions, but then that could lead you to the wrong conclusions. So the easiest thing to do is to ask them. If you ask a yes or no question and the person is saying no, pay very close attention on how they say no. So if they're like, no, they're lying. If they're like, no, they're lying. If they hesitate and then they say no, they're lying. If they say no, they're lying. If they sing no, they're lying. So keep in mind how they say no. Pay attention to that. The next thing is surprise them with the kind of question you're going to ask. So for example, if you tell someone, if someone's done something wrong behind your back and you ask them, hey, can I speak to you? Can I speak to you in like 5 minutes? And they say, yeah, sure. And they know they've done something wrong. They're going to go through every single question potentially that you're going to ask, and they're going to provide in their head an answer for every single one of them. And now that you know this, you have the upper hand, because then you can switch up the questions. They'll have no idea what's coming to them. They won't be prepared for it. And they are more likely to trip over it and say the truth just because they haven't prepared for that surprise question. And then if, let's say, a person told you this elaborate story and you do not believe it, try asking them to recall the event or relay the event from backwards, like backwards to the beginning, because people who are saying the truth about the story will actually remember more details, but liars will not remember the lies that they said, and saying the story backwards is going to make them trip over and mess up. And the last one is building rapport. I made a video about this like earlier, and it's very, very helpful. Again, the building rapport tips are also were also given by an FBI agent. I just find it so fascinating because I feel like if we want to understand truly human behaviors, other than psychologists, FBI agents, like they're the ones who work with humans, with trying to get the truth from humans, trying to basically spot out lies. They study and work with humans like all the time. I thought these tips will be helpful. If you found them helpful, follow for more psychology hacks.
It has been 250 years since the double slit experiment, and that motherfucker only keeps getting weirder and weirder. So today I'll be reading mostly from this article by Anil Anasthaswamy, which is excellently written, out of Nature magazine, and then some from this Beyond Physicalism book of essays. If you don't know the double slit experiment, here's what the polymath Thomas Young told the Royal Society in 1803. If you take a single light source and shine it through two slits, you get an interference pattern. They don't just go through. It must be that light is operating like waves, and the waves interfere with each other, so at some points there's light, and at other points there's darkness. When this was reported 250 years ago, it was mind-blowing, and it disproved Newton, who said that light was a stream of particles. It turns out that light is acting as a wave. But as we started to learn about quantum, things only got even more weird. What if you tried to put a single photon, 1 unit of light, through two slits? What happens? They couldn't technically do this experiment until the 1980s, when a team here in France, led by Alain Aspect, did it. And what did they find? That the photon was both a wave and a particle at the same time. He won a Nobel Prize for this work. This wave-particle duality gets at the heart of what's weird about quantum. It is a probability of where it is. And so if you don't observe it, you have certain chances that it is somewhere. Once you look at it, though, the state of probabilities collapses into it goes through one slit or the other. So it exists in both states until it gets observed. Then, as this writer states, this creates its own problems. Imagine a real wave function that spreads for kilometers and kilometers before an observer detects the photon. At this point, the wave function peaks at the photon's location and simultaneously drops to zero everywhere else over a large macroscopic distance. This suggests a kind of instantaneous, non-local influence that bothered Einstein to no end. By the way, two controversial and fascinating theories that came out of this is Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation, who says a new universe branches off every time this decision has to be made. There's also the more recent de Broglie-Bohm theorem, which says that there is an invisible pilot wave that is guiding all of these actions. But I think this sounds a little bit too much like God, and scientists don't like that one. This leads us to the great thought experiment from the legendary thinker John Wheeler called the delayed choice thought experiment. Imagine an experiment that gives you the choice of knowing which slit the particle went through. If you ignore that information, it continues to act like a wave. But if you access that information, then it stops acting like a wave and collapses and acts like one particle. So he had that idea in the 70s and 80s, and it was decades until Aspect's team could test it, and they found out that, yes, indeed, that is how it works in the real world. As this author asked, did the photon travel back through time and come back through the two waves as a slit? To avoid such nonsensical explanations, Wheeler argued the only way to make sense of the experiment was to say the photon had no reality. It's neither wave nor particle until it's detected. Though, if you look up retrocausality, the going back in time thing isn't so crazy. In a further refinement of that, in the 80s, Marlin Scully figured out how to entangle a photon with another photon. So because they're entangled, you can get information about one that's going to be true about the other. So if you keep them entangled, then they act like a particle because you can still get that information. But if you destroy the other one and that information isn't accessible, then it starts acting like a wave. So you're asking yourself, what does observation mean? And that's exactly what this essay in Beyond Physicalism by Henry Stapp is talking about. So the question that they answer is, where to make the cut? What counts as observation? If the data is just in the computer, does that count? Where is observation actually happening that collapses that probability of wave function down to a discrete particle? And John von Neumann, the famous physicist, faced this problem head on. What they found is the cut is very high up. If the information is in the microscope, it isn't yet observed. If it's in the computer, but not yet accessed, it's not observed. And it turns out it has to be observed by a human consciousness that collapses it. And so to John von Neumann, who got into mysticism basically because of this, it meant that we had these abstract egos that were not connected to our bodies, and the experiments did go that far. The cut is all the way up to beyond ourselves and into the consciousness that exists inside our brains. Does that sound spooky and non-scientific to you? Well, that's how quantum seems to anyone who looks at it. Read the writings of Dr. Nick Herbert for a great take on that. And the other question about cuts is, there's a question of where does the weirdness of the quantum world stop and the normalness of our classical world begin? And where do you make that cut? Where does the quantum stuff stop happening? And we don't really know, because the last thing I'll mention is in 2019, they actually did a experiment with macromolecules called oligoporphyrins, which I didn't know. But these are 2,000 atom big molecules. And if you send them through the double slits, you get the same kind of thing that you saw with photons. So up to 2,000 atoms, you're still having this quantum interference, dual wave particle thing going on. So we know it's at least that high. Maybe it goes all the way up to us. Maybe it goes all the way up to the whole universe. But whatever the double slit experiment is trying to teach us, we're still trying to figure it out.
Y también salvamos a una víbora de mar.
Y aquí mi comadre Edith, la más salvadora del planeta, la vamos a nominar como la Greenpeace de este año. Ahí va, viene una ola.
Believe it or not, this toenail is made of exactly the same thing as the horn, and yet nobody pursues the toenail, and everybody sees the horn of something of great value. And such is the way of the world. As technology advances, there's certain things that are not advancing, and traditional medicine is one of those. And traditional medicine, particularly in Asia, is responsible for the demise of so many species across the globe.
This is a really easy way to release sadness in a physical way. People have been asking for a better demo in a tank top, so here it is. So you want to take your index finger and you want to run it below your clavicle here. Once you hit your shoulder and it stops, put down your second middle finger here, and you're going to want to massage this area. I learned this technique from a somatic therapist, and you're going to massage here. It's very natural for it to be tight, for it to be painful. A lot of people cry immediately when they start doing this because this is where we hold our sadness and our grief. So you want to keep doing this no matter what happens. Just know that you're safe and held. And when you feel a release, you're going to pull that energy down your arm and release it, transmuting it into love. Now just keep in mind, you might have to do this daily for that to continue to let up. The left side's the feminine, the right side's the masculine. So do both sides, see which is tighter, because that'll kind of show you where the pain's coming from. Let me know how this works for you.
It's been 2,000 years of the exact same script. Most of us understand that the concept of sin is a construct utilized to control the lower classes. Because you see, when the concept of sin was invented, people were just raping and pillaging and unaliving each other nimbly-bimbly. So they had to make this invisible force to be like, you guys can't do that or else you're gonna suffer forever. And everyone was like, oh, we can't kill people anymore, all right. But see, in the age of information and technology, most people with functioning neurons understand you can't rape and pillage and unalive people. We don't need an invisible deity to tell us that. And if you want to believe in this zombie deity that came back to life, that died for your sins, that's fine. But other people don't have to believe that. You guys have to be okay with other people not believing what you believe. He died a brutal death. Yeah, your God sent himself to get sacrificed to himself so that we all could be forgiven for the sin that he invented. And you guys don't see the manipulation there? Okay.
Tesla never said the key to the universe was 369. No. He said that the key to the universe was 36912. They removed the 12 from that formula.
Who's they? Okay.
Whoever you want to, whoever you want to call that actually wants to manipulate and control humanity.
The industry doesn't want you to know that if you put styrofoam on your car tire, you'll discover a black stuff that lasts up to a month. And I'm going to teach you now. First, put pieces of styrofoam in a cup, then add thinner to melt the styrofoam, then mix it in the cup, add a few drops of black nail polish remover, and stir until well mixed. I added a few more drops. This is where the magic happens. In a few seconds, mixing, it's ready. And now it's time to test it. Look at the stark difference the tire will look like. And best of all, for several days. Look at that. The side that's gone looks like a new tire. You just have to be a bit careful when you put it on your car, so you don't get it on your wheel, because it's very resistant to coming off. That's why it lasts up to a month. This tip is worth gold, and you'll pay next to nothing. Do it today on your car, and thank me for years to come. The industry doesn't want you to know this, so share this video with as many people as possible. See how the tire looks like new? I've been doing it on my car for years.
Were you all aware of this yesterday? You know what this is? This is the London Stock Exchange. It was halted for 80 minutes yesterday. Coincidentally, after that incident happened, Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve comes out and says inflation is still high and lower economic growth is likely needed to bring it down. Well, what does that mean? Well, to put it into simple terms, they're going to continue to raise interest rates, forcing the market to get tighter and lending to be harder. All while they make you lose your job, because that's what lower economic growth means. In other words, if we're not already in it, then we are about to be in it. We are about to be in what's known as stagflation. All while we go through a liquidity crisis. Liquidity crisis, huh? The SEC drops charges against Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson. Yesterday, the one cryptocurrency that I feel deep down inside that can fix the liquidity issue that we have, the fractionalized banking issue that we have, their case just got dismissed. Because this bubble right here is going to pop and they need a solution. Then the debt clock did a secret window at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this was the image that was through the secret window. They need you to be mind controlled. They need you not to pay attention to what's really going on. I only have a couple more things to cover in this video, but if you learned anything new from any of these events that you weren't aware of, do me a favor, make sure you hit that like and follow and share this out, because everything I covered in this video happened within 24 hours. Oh shit, did they hit that switch? I was told coincidentally it happened at the same time he was giving his speech about the war and how they are aggressively not going to give up. You all know what wars create? Money. And as we print more money, it causes more inflation.
A ver, sonríe.
We are all standing under a glass ceiling right now. Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, It's got about 18 million cracks in it. We just put the biggest crack in that glass ceiling yet. Thanks to you and to everyone who's fought so hard to make this possible. I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now. But we are all standing.
That's about all he said since you walked up in the road.
Castor oil in your underarms is gonna save you in that transitional phase, all right? I want you to save this post and share this post. Comment stinky if you've ever been through that transitional phase. Like, you try to get off of the regular aluminum-filled deodorant and you try to use the plant-based aluminum-free ones, but there's that 3 to 4 week span where you just smell. Because you know what it is? Your pores are no longer clogged. You had a whole bunch of bacterial buildup, and now it has a way out, and it smells. You have years of buildup, years of using aluminum-filled deodorant, so now it has a way out. What the castor oil does is that it breaks down the bacteria, it alkalinizes that part of the body, and it makes sure that it smells good. It gets all the gunk out. That's really what you want to do. Aluminum-based deodorants clog those pores so that you smell nothing. And then they're all scented. They have perfume. So one, they irritate the skin. And two, they mess with the pigmentation. You'll probably see it. And it's not natural. You're not supposed to have any pores clogged at all. So I'm not even going to get into the ladies with the makeup and whatnot. You do you. More power to you. But for the people that want to heal their underarms and you don't want to be smelling like Thursdays, check it out. Use castor oil first. Then throw on some coconut oil, antibacterial, and then put on that plant-based aluminum-free deodorant. You're welcome. I saved a life.
Somebody found it much later and started playing around with it. A lot of the stuff in Egypt in the dynastic era was already there when the dynastic era started. So a lot of the things that are really super megalithic and really old were there. They inherited those things. If you could go to Mexico, where the Teotihuacan complex is located, which is a mirror of the Giza Plateau with the 3 pyramids aligning with Orion, the Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon, and so forth. Those structures were there before the Mayans got there. And even the Mexicans will tell you that the Mayans inherited what was, they built nothing. They even teach that in the university. They built nothing. Matter of fact, the Mayans didn't know who built that stuff, so they named them Teotihuacan. That's where the name came from. But when you go to the ancient text, you find out who built it. Thoth the Atlantean, who ruled over the land of Kem, ancient Egypt, he left because he was battling with his brother Marduk in the Bible. But Marduk is also known to the Egyptians as Amun-Ra. This is why people say amen at the end of every prayer. He's the one who said, at the end of every giving thanks, you say my name. That's where amen comes from. He left because of battling with his brother, and he went to Mesoamerica, and he took Olmecs with him, and they kickstarted and built the Teotihuacan civilization.
If you drink a small amount of alcohol, around 1 glass, it can decrease your sleep quality by 9.3%. If you drink a moderate amount of alcohol, around 2 glasses, it can decrease your sleep quality by 24%. And if you drink a larger amount of alcohol, around 3 glasses or so, then it can decrease your sleep quality by about 39.2%. So the moral of the story is if you choose to drink wine, then you should do it as far away from bedtime as you possibly can.
Can you share with us who will be the most likely species that we will have contact with first?
Most likely Pleiadian species of different types. The ones that are closest to you genetically, your cousins in a sense.
Is that true that Pleiadians seem to exhibit some of the most beautiful aspects of humans in terms of their visual appearance?
We understand what you mean by that, and I suppose the simple answer would be yes.
Yo, good vibes, people! Thanks for watching up to this far, man. This is that time where we take a moment, hit the like button, leave a comment, and share some good vibes, you see? And if you have done that already, man, big up to yourself and much, much love. You see how those videos has passed, and like to hear your comment about them. But there is a certain video that was passed there where some wonderful human was giving some life hack about how you can mix that white stuff with black polish remover and you paint your carvings. Oh, that's incredible. But now because for you don't have cast this side, but you have black shoes which you used to travel every day, moving from place to place, and they have faded. And that hack is an interesting one. I might as well try it and see if I see the changes. Maybe I might give myself some new shoe this time, man. Thanks to you and watch till the end. Spread some love from wherever you are. Let's keep watching. What? 4 mystery videos? Ha! Let's see. Oh my god. Oh, this is definitely a mystery. What? Who built stone doors? Oh my god, and tunnels on stores. Oh, do you think humans did this? I don't think so. Then who did this? Please share your thoughts on what you think about all this. This is not creepy because we have seen some guys in our previous episode that were saying it's like they saw a giant hiding behind some rock, and then we see some rock here with some corridor and a tunnel, and it's crazy, definitely crazy. Makes me wonder if this thing has been going around for so long. And what is this? Oh man, this is crazy. Looks like some baby stuff. What's this? Is that where Jerry from Tom and Jerry lives? Because it looks like his house. It's so small and it has all those furniture. Who did that? What? Oh my god, look at another creature there.
Did anyone else see this? When the radio kicks in, it's 1619 megahertz. You don't listen to the radio in megahertz frequency. It's AM or FM. What is that? What is that? So good old Google, the first freaking search. There it is, 1619 megahertz, ceramic passive antenna. What is that? Here are the key features: passive ceramic antenna, embedded antenna, ground plate dependent. I don't know what any of that means. If anyone knows, let me know. But there's more. Applications: embedded antenna solutions, satellite, internet, transportation, agriculture, construction, marine, mining, literally everything. Asset tracking, security, remote monitoring and control, energy monitoring, satellite voice and data communications, satellite phones, like emergency and remote communications, oil and gas industry. We know that there's like a possibility of maybe a cyber attack happening, and it happens to be on all of these things. But that's nothing though, right? Am I looking too far into it? I'm freaking myself out.
And is this the sound?
The world's most important advanced technology is nearly all produced in a single facility. What's more, that facility is located in one of the most geopolitically fraught areas on Earth, an area in which many analysts believe that war is inevitable within the decade. The future of artificial intelligence hangs in the balance. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, makes all of the world's most advanced AI chips. This includes NVIDIA's GPUs, Google's TPUs, AMD's GPUs, the AI chips from Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Cerebras, Sampanova, and every other credible competitor. Modern artificial intelligence simply would not be possible without these highly specialized chips. Little wonder then that Time magazine recently described TSMC as, quote, the world's most important company that you've probably never heard of.
He looks like he's dead. Like we're dying.
He's dying. He doesn't get that. I didn't have an 8-month pregnant wife. I'd get in there and help you with that.
I'm trying real hard not to get y'all in it, but I have to take pictures of the car. Are you guys? Babe, let him.
Yeah, let him.
I think it's dead.
No.
No, it's not dead.
I don't think you want to get in the water.
Where's...
I find a home that I want. I begin to imagine that I'm living in that home, and then doubt sets in, with the result that that doubt materializes into a person. And that person has more money than I have, and he buys the home, leaving me out in the cold. I know from that experience that every person in my world only reflects a mood in me. Everyone that I meet, whether I know them or a stranger who buys the home that I wanted. When the doubt set in, the doubt materialized into a person. I didn't know him, but he only reflects that mood of doubt in me. So he has more money and he buys the home, and I am out in the cold. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out. All that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your own wonderful human imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow.
Democracy is a form of government based upon the principle of majority rule, period. End of discussion. Now, that's not very complicated. Majority rule. It's easy to understand, easy to sell to the masses, and, I might add, deadly. For example, what would you call a lynch mob? That's majority rule. There's only one dissenting vote, and he's at the end of the rope. Now, that's pure democracy in action. Now, but wait a minute, you say. The majority should rule, yes, but not to the extent of destroying the rights of the minority. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are no longer describing a democracy. We are speaking of a republic. A republic is a limited democracy. It's a form of government based upon the principle of limited majority rule. Limited so that the minority, even a minority of one, can be protected against the whims and passions of the majority. And how do you protect the minority from the majority? You write down a set of rules on a piece of paper. You say, this we can do, that we cannot. At the top of the paper, you write the word Constitution. And then everyone agrees to follow the rules no matter what the temptation. And when you're finished, you've created a constitutional republic.
This is interesting. Oh, you see these animals, the way they just interact. It's amazing. These ones are completely different breeds, but they are sharing love and they are sitting with one another. Oh, this is nice, man.
Why are you ripping him off?